I didn't realize my husband was trying to erase me until I found out he had already done it to 3 other women. And the worst part? He didn't need to kill me. He just needed everyone to believe I was insane. The first thing I noticed when I came back was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that feels engineered. The glass walls of the house stretched from floor to ceiling, facing the gray Atlantic. Morning fog rolled in from the water, slow and heavy, pressing against the windows like something alive. From a distance, the house probably looked beautiful. Up close, it felt like an aquarium, and I was the only thing inside it. I stood in the entryway longer than I should have, suitcase still in my hand. The system chimed softly overhead. "Welcome home, Naomi." Same voice, same tone, warm, neutral, empty. I didn't answer. 3 days ago, I buried my mother. Now I was back in the house she built, with the man she never trusted. "Naomi?" Adrian's voice carried from the kitchen. Calm, smooth, controlled. I turned slowly. He stood there in a dark sweater, sleeves rolled just enough to look effortless. Like always, like nothing had changed. Like we hadn't just come back from a funeral. Like my mother hadn't died. He smiled. "You're just standing there," he said gently. "Come in." I forced my feet to move. Every step echoed too loudly on the polished floor. He crossed the room and took the suitcase from my hand before I could protest. His fingers brushed mine, got me steady, grounding in a way that used to comfort me. Now it made something tighten in my chest. "How was the drive?" he asked. "Fine." My voice sounded distant, even to me. He nodded, studying my face just a second longer than necessary. "You didn't sleep," he said. Not a question. I shook my head. "I'm fine." "You don't have to be." That tone again, soft, understanding, almost perfect. Almost. I walked past him toward the living room. The ocean stretched endlessly beyond the glass, waves crashing against dark rocks below. The sky was the color of wet concrete. I used to love this view. Now it felt like there was nowhere to hide. Behind me, Adrian moved quietly. I didn't hear his footsteps. I never did. "Victor called," he said. "He wants to meet about the trust, maybe tomorrow." I stiffened slightly. "Already?" "There's a lot to handle," he said. "Your mother had complicated arrangements." I turned back to him. "Did she?" He held my gaze, then gave a small shrug. "You know how she was. Careful, protective." That word lingered. Protective. Of me or from you? I looked away first. "I'll deal with it tomorrow." "Of course." He smiled again. "No rush." There was always a rush. With him, there was always a timeline I couldn't see. A quiet click echoed somewhere in the house. I frowned. "Did you hear that?" Adrian didn't react. "Hear what?" "That sound, like a lock." He tilted his head slightly, listening, or pretending to. "Probably the system recalibrating," he said. "It does that when humidity changes." I glanced at the ceiling. The house was fully automated. Climate control, security, lighting, everything tied into one central system. My mother used to joke that the house could think. Now I wasn't so sure it wasn't true. "Naomi," Adrian said softly. I looked back at him. "You're on edge." "I just got back from burying my mother." "I know." He stepped closer. Not too close. Never too close. "That's why I'm saying it." His hand hovered near my arm, then rested there gently. "You don't have to hold it together here." The words were right. The tone was right. Everything about him was right. And that was the problem, because I couldn't feel it anymore. "I'm going to shower," I said, pulling away. "Of course." No resistance. No questions. I turned and walked toward the hallway. The glass walls followed me the entire way, reflecting my own silhouette back at me. Thin, tired, unfamiliar. Halfway down the hall, I stopped. Something moved. Not outside. Inside. I turned my head slowly toward the far corner of the ceiling. A camera. Small, matte black, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. I stared at it. For a second, nothing happened. Then, it shifted. Just a few degrees, enough to center on me. My breath caught. "Adrian?" I called, not taking my eyes off it. "Yes?" His voice came from behind me, closer than I expected. I didn't turn. "Why is that camera moving?" A pause. Too long. Then, "It tracks motion," he said casually. "It's always done that." I swallowed. "It didn't used to follow me." Another pause. "Naomi," he said, softer now. "You probably just never noticed." Slowly, I turned. He was watching me. Not the camera, me. That same calm expression, that same controlled stillness, like he was measuring something. "Come on," he added gently. "You need rest." I nodded, even though something inside me was already starting to fracture. I turned back toward the hallway, but before I moved, the system chimed again, soft, polite, almost friendly. "Night mode override activated." I froze. Night mode? It was barely noon. I looked up at the nearest control panel. A line of text flickered across the screen. "Admin access confirmed." My stomach dropped. I never set myself as admin. Slowly, I turned my head. "Adrian?" He didn't answer immediately. When I finally looked at him, he was still smiling. But this time, it didn't reach his eyes. The next morning felt cleaner, not better, just quieter inside my head, like something had been smoothed over while I slept. That alone should have bothered me. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember getting into bed. I only remember standing in the hallway, staring at that screen. And then, nothing. I stood at the kitchen counter, staring into a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. Across from me, Adrian scrolled through his phone like any normal morning, like nothing unusual had happened, like I hadn't woken up with a gap in my memory. "You're not drinking that," he said without looking up. "I will. You said that 10 minutes ago." I blinked. "Did I?" He glanced up just briefly, a small smile, concerned, measured. "You're exhausted, Naomi." I forced a breath. "I'm fine." "Of course you are." That again. Agreement. That didn't feel like agreement. I set the cup down. "Did you change anything in the system last night?" "No." Too fast. I held his gaze. It said admin access was confirmed. He leaned back slightly, calm as ever. "You are admin." "No, I'm not." A beat, then he shrugged. "Then it must have reset after the update." "What update?" "The one I told you about last week." "You didn't tell me about any update." Another pause, this time longer. Then he tilted his head slightly, studying me. "Naomi." The way he said my name, soft, careful, felt like a diagnosis. "You've had a lot on your plate." "I remember what you told me," I said, sharper now. "I'm not saying you don't." His tone stayed level. "I'm saying stress can blur things." Blur things. My chest tightened. Before I could respond, the doorbell chimed. Once. Clean. Precise. Adrian stood immediately. "That'll be Victor." Of course it was. Right on time. He walked to the door and opened it before I could move. The cold air slipped in first, carrying salt and fog. Then Victor Hale stepped inside, shaking off his coat. Mid-50s, impeccable posture, the kind of man who never rushed because time always waited for him. "Naomi," he said, offering a firm handshake. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you for coming." We moved into the living room. The ocean stretched behind us, gray and endless. Victor placed his briefcase on the table and opened it with quiet precision. Adrian didn't sit right away. He stood behind me, not touching, just there. Victor slid a folder across the table. "Your mother established an irrevocable trust 12 years ago," he began. Everything flows through it. I nodded, trying to focus. Meaning, I don't actually control it? You're the primary beneficiary, he said, but distributions and decisions go through an independent trustee. You. He inclined his head. Correct. I glanced back slightly. Adrian hadn't moved. Victor continued, there are standard provisions, asset protection, tax optimization, succession planning. His voice was steady, predictable, safe. Then, there is one clause we need to address. My stomach tightened. What clause? Victor paused, choosing his words carefully. If you are declared legally incapacitated, control of the trust shifts fully to the trustee until capacity is restored. The room felt colder. Incapacitated how? Medical determination, 2 licensed physicians, and, if contested, court confirmation. I swallowed. That's standard? It's not unusual, he said, especially given the size of the estate. I nodded slowly. From behind me, Adrian spoke for the first time. It's just a safeguard. I turned my head slightly. For who? A small pause. For you, he said gently. Victor continued. Your mother was very specific about protecting the structure. She wanted to ensure stability. Stability? I let out a quiet breath. What would qualify as incapacitated? Victor hesitated. Severe cognitive impairment, psychiatric instability, conditions that impair judgment. My fingers curled slightly against my knee. Psychiatric instability. The words hung in the air. Adrian stepped forward then, finally taking a seat beside me. Naomi, he said softly, this is just legal language. I looked at him. Is it? He held my gaze, calm, steady. You've been through a lot, he said. Losing your mom, everything before that, it's normal to feel off. I don't feel off. Of course not. Again. Agreement that felt like something else. Victor cleared his throat gently. There's also a recommendation, he said, flipping a page. Your mother suggested periodic wellness evaluations. I blinked. She did? Yes. Nothing binding, just encouraged. Adrian's hand rested lightly on the table. That might not be a bad idea, he said. I turned to him slowly. You think I need a psychiatric evaluation? I think, he said carefully, it could help document that you're doing well. Document. Everything suddenly felt documented, measured, prepared. I leaned back slightly, heart beginning to beat faster. Outside, the fog pressed harder against the glass. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, the system chimed, soft, polite. Indoor air quality adjusted. Victor didn't react. Adrian didn't react. But I felt it. A subtle shift in the air, cooler, thinner. I looked up instinctively. The vents above us were silent, invisible, working. I turned my head slowly toward Adrian. He was already looking at me, watching, measuring, like he was waiting to see what I would do next. And for the first time, I realized something that made my stomach drop. This wasn't about killing me. Not yet. This was about proving something first. I started keeping track of time. Not in hours, in gaps. The first one was small. I stood at the sink, rinsing a glass. I remember the sound of water, the way it hit the metal, sharp and steady. I remember thinking I should call Victor back, ask more questions. Then, I was upstairs, standing in the hallway. Wet hands, no glass. I froze. My heart didn't race. It didn't panic. It just dropped. Like something inside me knew this wasn't the first time. I looked down at my hands, still damp. That meant it had just happened. Whatever it was. Naomi? I turned. Adrian stood at the end of the hall, one hand in his pocket, the other holding his phone. Calm, always calm. You okay? I stared at him. How long was I up here? He frowned slightly. Not confusion, not really. Concern. You came up a few minutes ago. No, I said quietly. I was in the kitchen. You were, he said, Then you came upstairs. That's not what I asked. A pause. Then he slipped the phone into his pocket. Naomi, what's going on? The tone again, soft, controlled, like I was the one introducing something wrong into the room. I don't remember walking up here. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, not fast, never fast. Have you been sleeping at all? He asked. I let out a small breath. Stop doing that. Doing what? Answering a different question. Another pause, longer this time. Then, I don't know what you want me to say, he said quietly. You were downstairs. Then you came up. That's all I saw. I held his gaze, trying to read something, anything. There was nothing there. No flicker, no hesitation, just steadiness. Too much steadiness. I'm going to check the cameras, I said. That was the first time something changed. Not his expression, not his posture, just a fraction of a second, a delay. Then he nodded. Of course. Too easy. I walked past him, down the stairs, back into the living room. The ocean was still there. Same gray, same movement, like time hadn't moved at all. The control panel sat flush against the wall. I tapped the screen. Security. Playback. The interface opened smoothly. Clean, minimal. I selected the kitchen feed. Timestamp 11:14 a.m. There I was, at the sink, exactly where I remembered. Water running, glass in my hand. I leaned closer, watching myself, trying to catch the moment, the break, the shift. At 11:16. I turned off the water, set the glass down. Then, I just stood there, not moving, not doing anything, just standing. I felt my chest tighten. What are you doing? I whispered. The version of me on the screen tilted her head slightly, like she was listening to something. Then, she walked out of frame. Calm, steady, normal. The timestamp jumped. 11:19. No footage in between. I blinked. Scrolled back. Same thing. 11:16 to 11:19. Gone. I checked another camera. Hallway. 11:19. There I was, walking into frame. Exactly how Adrian said. Exactly how it should look. Except it didn't feel like that. It felt like something had been cut out. I stepped back slowly. No. Behind me, Adrian's voice came quiet. Did you find it? I didn't turn. There's a gap. A gap? 3 minutes. He walked closer. I could feel it before I saw him. That's not unusual, he said. The system compresses data sometimes. No, it doesn't. It can. It didn't before. A pause. Then, you didn't check it before. I turned sharply. Yes, I did. When? Before my mom got sick. That was months ago. So? So things change. His tone stayed even, reasonable, always reasonable. I stared at him. You're saying this is normal. I'm saying there could be an explanation. There is an explanation, I said. And what is it? I hesitated, because the answer in my head, didn't sound rational. That something's missing, I said quietly. He watched me for a long second, then he sighed, soft, controlled. Naomi, you're looking for patterns. I'm looking at facts. You're looking at a stressful week and trying to make sense of it. That's not what this is. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. You lost your mother 3 days ago. The words hit harder than they should have. You haven't slept. I told you I'm fine. I know you want to be. There it was again. Not agreement, correction. Something cold moved through me. I'm not confused, I said. I didn't say you were. You're implying it. I'm worried about you. I let out a breath. Shaky now. Stop. Stop what? framing everything like I'm breaking. His expression softened, too perfectly. I'm not framing anything, he said. I'm just here. That word, here, like he was the safe one, like he was the constant. I looked back at the screen, at the version of me that stood still for those 3 minutes, listening to something I couldn't hear. What if I'm not imagining it? I said quietly. He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was even softer. Then, we'll figure it out together. Together. I nodded slowly, like I believed him, like everything was still normal. But as I stood there, staring at the missing time, I realized something that made my stomach twist. This wasn't random. This wasn't stress. This was controlled. And whatever was happening, it was happening inside my own house. I didn't tell Adrian about Renee. That was the first decision I made that felt like mine. We met an hour south of the house, in a quiet cafe just off Highway 1, the kind of place no one noticed. Salt in the air, low music, people who kept to themselves. Renee Klein didn't look like what I expected. No trench coat, no sharp edges. Just a woman in her 40s, dark hair pulled back, eyes that didn't miss anything. "You're late," she said, not unkindly. I almost didn't come. That would have been smarter. I sat across from her. I need to know if I'm losing my mind. She didn't react to that, just slid a folder across the table. "I don't take cases based on feelings," she said. So I started with facts. My fingers hesitated, then opened it. Photos, different women, different places, same pattern. They were all married within a year of losing a spouse, Renee said. All had significant assets. All died within 18 months. I looked up slowly. Natural causes? Officially. And unofficially? She leaned back slightly. Unclear. I turned back to the photos. One of them made my breath catch. She looked familiar, not identical, but close enough that something inside me recoiled. Her name was Claire Weston, Renee said quietly. 42. Died of complications from anxiety-related insomnia. I swallowed. That's not a real cause of death. No, she said, but it sounds acceptable on paper. I kept staring at the photo, at the way the woman smiled, at the way her eyes didn't. How is Adrian connected to them? Renee didn't answer immediately. Instead, she flipped the page. Documents, marriage records, different names, different identities, but the same face. My stomach dropped. That's not possible. It is, she said. If you know how to move through states without leaving a clean trail. He would have been caught. Eventually, she said, unless the victims can't testify. I looked up at her, cold realization creeping in. They all died. 3 did. 3. I blinked. I said 3 died, she repeated. Not all. My pulse kicked. There's another one. Renee nodded once. Name's Julia Hart. She didn't die. Where is she? Renee held my gaze. Psychiatric facility. Northern California. The words hit harder than anything else. She's alive. Technically, I felt my hands go cold. What happened to her? Renee's voice stayed level. Her family petitioned for conservatorship after a series of reported episodes. Paranoia, memory lapses, erratic behavior. My throat tightened. That sounds like you? She didn't soften it, didn't cushion it. I nodded slowly. Renee leaned forward slightly. She tried to accuse her husband of drugging her, she said the house was being controlled, that she was being monitored. The room felt smaller. She sounds exactly like me. Yes. Silence stretched between us, heavy, measured. What happened to the husband? I asked. He disappeared. Of course he did. And no one questioned it? They did, Renee said. But without evidence, it becomes a story about a mentally unstable woman making accusations. I looked down at the table, at my hands, at the faint tremor I hadn't noticed before. She's still in there? Yes. Does she remember what happened? Renee's expression shifted, just slightly. She remembers enough to be afraid. A chill ran through me. I closed the folder slowly. He's done this before. Yes. And no one stopped him. No one could prove it. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Then I looked up. What about Lucas? That was the part I hadn't said out loud yet. Renee didn't look surprised. I was wondering when you'd ask that. You know about him. I know he's been meeting Adrian. My chest tightened. How long? Months. I stared at her. No. Yes. He wouldn't. He already did, she said. The words landed clean. No emotion. No hesitation. What is he giving him? I asked. Renee slid another photo across the table. It wasn't a photo. It was a copy of a document. Medical. My name at the top. I felt the world tilt. Where did you get this? Doesn't matter, she said. What matters is what it is. I read the header again. Psychiatric evaluation, diagnosis, early onset paranoia. That's not real, I said. I know. But it looks real. Yes. My fingers tightened around the paper. Lucas gave him this. Or helped create it. I shook my head. No, he wouldn't do that to me. Renee didn't argue, didn't agree. She just watched me, letting the truth sit there, unmoved. I leaned back slowly, trying to breathe, trying to think. This isn't about money, I said. No, it's about making me look unstable. Yes. So when I say something, no one believes you. The words hit like a closing door. I stared at the ocean through the cafe window. Gray, endless, like the house, like the silence inside it. He's not trying to kill me, I whispered. Renee didn't respond, because she didn't need to. I already knew. He's trying to prove I shouldn't exist, I said. A beat. Then Renee spoke, quiet and certain. Then you need to decide something. I looked at her. Fast. Decide what? Her eyes locked onto mine. Whether you're going to act like a victim, she leaned in slightly, or survive long enough to become evidence. I didn't go straight home. I sat in the car for a long time, engine off, watching the fog roll over the coastline like it was swallowing the road behind me. Lucas. The name wouldn't settle. It didn't fit with what I had just seen, what I had just read, my brother, not just involved, participating. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. There had to be something I was missing. There always was. By the time I got back to the house, the sky had darkened. The glass walls reflected the inside now, not the ocean. My own silhouette stared back at me as I stepped through the door. Welcome home, Naomi. That voice again. Same tone, same calm, like nothing could ever disrupt it. Adrian was in the kitchen, exactly where I expected him to be. He looked up and smiled. You were gone longer than you said. I needed air, he nodded. No pushback. Did it help? No. A small pause. Then he stepped aside slightly. Dinner's almost ready. Everything about him was normal, measured, perfectly placed, and suddenly that felt more threatening than anything else. I walked past him. You didn't call, he added. I stopped. I didn't think I needed to. You don't, he said. I just worry. There it was again. That word, worry. I turned slowly. About what? He met my eyes. About you being alone. Something cold slid under my skin. I'm not alone, I said. Another pause, then a faint smile. Of course not. I held his gaze a second longer, then walked upstairs. I didn't go to the bedroom. I went to my mother's office. He didn't like me in there. He never said it directly, but every time I stepped inside, I could feel it. The shift, the awareness. The door closed behind me with a soft click. The room still smelled like her. Paper, wood, a trace of perfume that hadn't faded yet. I moved to the desk and opened the top drawer. Empty. Second drawer. Files. Neatly organized. Too neat. I crouched slightly, running my fingers along the inside edge. That's when I felt it. A ridge. Subtle. Out of place. I pressed. Nothing. Pressed again. Harder. A soft release. The back panel shifted just enough to reveal a narrow compartment. My breath caught. Inside, a small flash drive and a folded note. My hands moved before I could think. I unfolded the paper. Her handwriting. Uneven. Rushed. If anything feels wrong, check the air system. Not the cameras. The air. I stared at the words, then read them again and again. The air. A memory surfaced. The system voice. Indoor air quality adjusted. My chest tightened. I grabbed the flash drive and stood quickly, moving to the laptop on the desk. It powered on instantly. No password. She never used one. The drive clicked into place. Files appeared. Dozens of them. Logs, dates, system reports. I opened the first one. Air composition levels. CO2 spikes. Irregular patterns, always at night, always when... My stomach dropped. When I was asleep. No. I scrolled faster. More logs, temperature fluctuations, vent overrides, admin access. Always the same tag. Admin. I never set that. My pulse started to rise. This wasn't random. This wasn't stress. This was controlled, measured, planned. A soft sound behind me. I froze. The door. Had I locked it? I turned slowly. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching. Not surprised. Not confused. Just there. You found it, he said. My throat went dry. How long have you been standing there? Long enough? His eyes flicked briefly to the laptop, then back to me. You shouldn't be digging through things right now, he said gently. My grip tightened around the edge of the desk. You've been adjusting the air. A small pause. Then, I manage the system, he said. That's not what I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. The air in the room felt thinner, colder. Naomi, he said quietly, you don't understand what you're looking at. I understand enough. Do you? His voice didn't rise, didn't sharpen. If anything, it softened. That system regulates everything, he continued. Temperature, oxygen balance, sleep cycles. Sleep cycles. My chest tightened. You've been altering it, I said. I've been optimizing it. For what? A beat. Then, for you. The words landed like something heavy. You haven't been sleeping, he said. Your stress levels have been elevated. Your body needed help stabilizing. That's not your decision. I live here too. That doesn't give you the right to control my body. I'm not controlling you. I let out a short, breathless laugh. You're adjusting the air I breathe. To help you. To what? I snapped. Forget things? Silence. That was the first time he didn't answer immediately, and that silence said more than anything else. My heart started pounding. What did you do to me? I asked. He took a step forward, slow, careful, like approaching something fragile. I'm trying to keep you steady, he said. I don't need you to keep me steady. I think you do. The words were quiet, certain, final. I shook my head. No, this isn't about helping me. He didn't respond, didn't deny it. The room felt smaller, the walls closer. You're trying to make me look unstable, I said, another step closer. Naomi, you're building a case. His eyes held mine, still calm, still unreadable, but now there was something else, something underneath. Not concern, not care, calculation. You're tired, he said softly. You're overwhelmed. You're connecting things that aren't there. That's exactly what you want. A pause. Then, you should get some rest. I stared at him, at the man who knew exactly what he was doing and was patient enough to let me figure it out slowly. That was the most terrifying part. Not that he was lying, but that he didn't need to rush, because whatever he was building was already working. I took a step back. Just one. But it felt like crossing a line. "You're not helping me," I said quietly. For the first time, his smile faded. Not completely. Just enough. "We'll talk in the morning," he said. Then he turned and walked away, leaving the door open behind him, like I was free to leave, even though we both knew I wasn't. I looked back at the screen, at the logs, at the patterns, at the proof, then down at my hands. They were shaking now, not from fear, from clarity. Because now I knew this wasn't about killing me, not yet. This was about rewriting me, and if I didn't stop it, there wouldn't be anything left to save. I didn't sleep that night, not even close. I turned off the system manually. At least, I thought I did. The control panel showed everything disabled: air cycling, sleep optimization, auto-regulation, all of it. But sometime after midnight, I felt it again. That subtle shift, like the room exhaled without asking me first. I sat up in bed, heart already racing. The air felt different, cooler, thinner. "Stop!" I got up too fast, dizziness hitting before my feet touched the floor. I steadied myself against the wall, forcing my breathing to slow. This was real. It had to be real. I walked into the hallway, bare feet silent against the floor. The house was dark, but not fully. Soft lights glowed along the edges, just enough to guide movement, like it wanted me to keep walking. The control panel was at the end of the hall. I reached it and tapped the screen. System active. I froze. No, I disabled it. I watched it power down. I remember doing it. My hand hovered over the screen. Then I checked the logs. 0042. System reactivated access level. Admin, my stomach dropped. "Adrian." I didn't say it loudly. I didn't need to. I turned slowly. The hallway behind me was empty, but I wasn't alone. I could feel it. Not a person. Something else. The system. Watching. Adjusting. Waiting. I stepped back from the panel. That's when I heard it. A faint click. From downstairs. Not the system. Something physical. A door. I moved before I could think. Down the stairs. Each step too loud, too exposed. The living room stretched open and dark, the ocean beyond it invisible now, just black glass reflecting the inside back at me. Then, movement, near the kitchen. I stopped. "Lucas?" The name slipped out before I could stop it. Silence. Then, he stepped into the light. My brother. Same face, same posture. But something about him felt smaller, tighter, like he was holding himself together. "Naomi," he said quietly. My chest tightened. "What are you doing here?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, his eyes moved past me, scanning, measuring the room, just like Adrian. "Is he here?" Lucas asked. "No." A pause. Then he exhaled. Not relief, just less tension. "You shouldn't be here," I said. "I know." "Then why are you?" He looked at me then, really looked, and for a second, I saw something break through guilt. "Because you're running out of time," he said. The words landed hard. "What does that mean?" He stepped closer, not too close, never too close. "You need to stop pushing back," he said. My pulse spiked. "Excuse me?" "You're making it worse." "I'm trying to understand what's happening." "I know," he said, "and that's the problem." I stared at him. "You're helping him." His jaw tightened. "I'm helping you." "That's not what this looks like." "No," he said quietly. "It doesn't." Silence stretched between us, heavy, unstable. "Did you create those reports?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Lucas?" A beat, then, "I didn't start it." Cold. Precise. honest enough to hurt. But you continued it. His eyes dropped for a second, then back to mine. You don't understand what he can do. I'm starting to. No, he said. You're not. His voice sharpened for the first time. Not loud, but real. He doesn't just control the house, Lucas said. He controls the narrative. I felt something shift inside me. What does that mean? It means by the time you realize what's happening, he said, it's already documented. My throat tightened. The reports. He nodded once. The evaluations. The gaps in memory. The footage. Each word landed heavier than the last. They're all pieces, he said. For what? A pause. Then, for when they need to prove you're not stable. I stepped back slowly. No, yes, they can't just do that. They can if it looks real. It's not real. That doesn't matter. The room felt colder, smaller, like it was closing in. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Lucas hesitated, and that hesitation was the answer. You're not supposed to, I said. No. Then why are you here? He looked at me, really looked this time, and the guilt came back, stronger. Because I've seen how this ends, he said. My chest tightened. With the others? A small nod. And you didn't stop it. I couldn't. You didn't try. His jaw clenched. You think I didn't try? I held his gaze. I think you chose yourself. Silence. Heavy. Sharp. Then, maybe I did, he said quietly. That hurt more than anything else. Then why now? I asked. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. Because this time, he's moving faster. My pulse kicked. How fast? Lucas glanced toward the hallway, then back at me. Have they scheduled your evaluation yet? My stomach dropped. No. They will. When? Soon. How soon? He didn't answer. That was enough. They're going to put me on a hold, I said. Yes. The word landed like a sentence. And once that happens, you lose control, he said, of everything. The house, the money, my life. I felt the air shift again. Subtle, controlled. Lucas noticed it too. His eyes flicked upward, then back to me. You feel that? He asked. I nodded. That's not random, he said. I know. He took a step back, already pulling away. I shouldn't have come, he said. No, I said. You shouldn't have. A beat. Then he added softer. But you needed to hear it. I watched him move toward the door. Lucas. He stopped, didn't turn. If I don't play along, I said quietly, what happens? A long pause. Then, they don't need you to cooperate, he said. Cold, final. They just need you to react. The door opened, then closed, and just like that, he was gone. I stood there, alone again. The house silent, watching, waiting. I looked up at the ceiling, at the vents, at the invisible system controlling everything. Then I understood, not just what Adrian was doing, but how. This wasn't about forcing me. This was about guiding me until I became exactly what they needed me to be. Unstable, unreliable, unbelievable. And if I kept reacting, I would finish the job for them. I stopped reacting. That was the first real move I made. Not fighting him, not confronting him, not asking questions I already knew he would twist. I became calm, measured, predictable. Exactly what he expected. Exactly what he needed. That was the only way I was going to survive this. The evaluation was scheduled 2 days later. Of course it was. Adrian didn't tell me directly. He framed it, soft, careful, like everything else. I thought it might help, he said over breakfast, sliding a folder toward me, just to have something on record. I didn't touch it. What kind of record? That you're okay. I looked at him. I already know that. I know you do. There it was again. Agreement that meant the opposite. I nodded slowly. Okay. That was the moment. The first shift. He didn't expect that. It was small, but I saw it. That fraction of a second where something in him recalculated. You're okay with it? He asked. Yes. No hesitation, no tension, just acceptance. He studied my face, looking for cracks. There were none. Good, he said finally. But his voice was different now, less certain. The clinic was exactly what I expected. Clean, quiet, neutral colors designed to feel safe. Nothing about it felt safe. Adrian stayed beside me the entire time. Not touching, not speaking, just present, like a witness or a handler. Dr. Myers was in his early 50s. Calm voice, steady eyes, the kind of man trained to read between words. Naomi, he said gently, I just want to talk. I nodded. Of course. He glanced briefly at Adrian. Would you mind waiting outside? A pause. Then Adrian smiled. Not at all. He stood, gave my shoulder the lightest touch, and left. The door closed. Silence settled in. Dr. Myers leaned forward slightly. Tell me how you've been feeling. I met his gaze. Clear. He waited. Just clear? Yes. No elaboration, no over-explaining, no emotion spilling out. Just enough. He made a note. Any issues with memory? No. Sleep? Better. Anxiety? Manageable. Everything simple, controlled, clean, exactly how it should sound. He studied me for a long moment, then, your husband mentioned some concerns. Of course he did. What kind of concerns? Periods of confusion, disorientation, emotional stress. I nodded slowly. That makes sense. His pen paused. Does it? Yes, I said. My mother died 3 days before I came back. I was exhausted. I was grieving. Things felt blurred. Truth. Just enough truth. That doesn't feel like confusion to you? He asked. No, I said. It feels like grief. Another note. A longer one. And now? He asked. I held his gaze. Now I feel like myself again. Silence. He leaned back slightly, watching me differently now, less like a patient, more like a variable. Would you be open to follow-ups? He asked. Of course. Medication if needed? If needed. No resistance, no defensiveness, nothing for him to label. He nodded once. All right. When Adrian came back in, his eyes went straight to my face, searching, measuring. What do you think? He asked the doctor. Dr. Myers closed his folder. I think Naomi is under stress, he said. But I don't see signs of acute instability. A beat. Then, I'd recommend monitoring, not intervention. I didn't look at Adrian. I didn't need to. I felt it. That shift, that tightening. Small, controlled, but real. We drove home in silence. The ocean was clearer that afternoon. The fog had lifted. For the first time since I got back, I could see the horizon. It felt distant, unreachable. Adrian finally spoke. You did well. I turned my head slightly. Was that a test? A faint smile. No. Yes, it was. A pause. Then, you handled it, he said. Handled it. Like it was something to pass. I looked out the window again. You were expecting something else. No, he said smoothly. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Of course you did. Silence settled again. But it was different now. Sharper, more defined, because now I knew. I had disrupted something. Not the plan, not yet, but the pace. That night, I went back into my mother's office, closed the door, locked it. This time I checked. Twice. I plugged the drive back in, opened the logs again. Slower now, more careful, looking for patterns, not reactions. That's when I saw it. A sequence. Dates aligned with something else. Not just system changes, appointments, meetings, evaluations. My breath slowed. Then, a new entry. Today's date. Timestamp. 1432 system. Note. Evaluation complete. Followed by next phase initiated. My stomach dropped. No. I scrolled down. There it was. Clear, cold, planned. Authorized action. Legal hold preparation. 72 hours. The room felt like it tilted. 72 hours. That was it. That was the window. I stared at the screen, at the words that confirmed everything Lucas had said. They weren't waiting anymore. They were moving. Fast, precise, final. And for the first time, I understood the real timeline. This wasn't something I could outlast. This was something I had to stop. Now. I didn't panic. That was the only reason I was still standing. 72 hours. That was the clock. Not for survival, for erasure. I closed the laptop slowly, forcing my breathing to stay even. Panic would show. Panic would validate everything they were building. I couldn't afford that. Not anymore. The house felt different that night. Not louder, not colder, just aware. Like something had shifted from observation to execution. I walked into the living room and sat down, hands folded loosely in my lap. The ocean beyond the glass was black again, swallowing the horizon completely. Footsteps behind me. Adrian, right on schedule. "You're up late," he said. I couldn't sleep. "Anything on your mind?" "Everything." But I smiled. "No." He watched me for a moment longer than usual. Something wasn't aligning for him. "Good." I turned slightly toward him. "I was thinking," I said calmly, "maybe we should open one of my mom's bottles." A pause. Small. Sharp. "Tonight?" he asked. "Yes." "Why tonight?" I met his eyes. "Because I don't want to keep waiting for things to feel normal." Truth. Just enough truth. His gaze held mine, calculating. Then, he smiled. "That sounds like a good idea." Of course it did. The cellar was colder than the rest of the house. Stone walls, low ceiling, rows of bottles lined with perfect precision. No cameras, at least none visible. I walked ahead of him, slow, controlled, like nothing was wrong, like I didn't know. "Which one?" he asked. I ran my fingers along the shelf, pretending to consider. Then I stopped. "This one." I didn't even look at the label. It didn't matter. This wasn't about wine. I turned slightly. "You mind grabbing the opener from upstairs?" Another pause. Longer this time. "You don't want me to stay?" he asked. I smiled. "I'll be right here." Silence stretched between us, then, "All right," he said. He turned, walked toward the stairs. I waited, counted, 5, 10, 15. Then I moved, fast, to the back wall. My fingers found the edge my mother had described, barely there. I pressed. Nothing. Pressed again. Harder. A soft click. The panel shifted. Cold air rushed out. I slipped inside without thinking. The door closed behind me with a quiet seal. Darkness. Then, a dim emergency light flickered on. Small room, metal walls, air tanks, a second control panel. This one wasn't connected to the house, my mother's system. Separate. Safe. For now. I leaned against the wall, heart finally breaking rhythm. "You were right," I whispered. Not about everything, but enough. Above me, faintly, a sound. The cellar door. Closing. Then, silence. I moved to the small monitor embedded in the wall. Activated it. The feed came to life. Black and white, grainy, but clear enough. The cellar, empty. Except Him. Adrian stepped into frame slowly, looked around. No panic, no confusion, just expectation. He walked forward, stopped where I had been standing, then tilted his head slightly, listening, always listening. My breath caught. He stepped closer to the wall, to the exact place I had disappeared. My hand hovered over the emergency control. If he opened it, if he found me, but he didn't. Instead, he smiled, not the soft one, not the careful one, the real one, cold, certain. You always choose the same direction, he said quietly. My blood ran cold. He wasn't guessing. He knew. He reached out, pressed something along the wall. A mechanism shifted. Not mine, his. The air changed instantly. Even in here, I felt it. A pull, a drain. He turned slightly, looking toward where the ventilation system fed through the cellar. Then he spoke, calm, precise, like he was documenting. Subject is non-responsive, he said. Estimated time to collapse, under 10 minutes. My heart slammed. He was already in it, already building the narrative. I grabbed the secondary panel, fingers shaking now. Override, override. Nothing. No, no. Then, a voice behind me. Don't. I spun. Lucas, standing in the corner. I hadn't heard him come in. I hadn't heard anything. How? Doesn't matter, he said quickly. You can't override it from here. Then what do I do? He stepped closer, fast, urgent. For once, don't fight him directly. What does that mean? It means let him finish the move. My pulse spiked. He's trying to kill me. He's trying to prove you died the way he predicted. That's the same thing. No, Lucas said sharply. It's not. I stared at him. You need him to commit, he said. Fully, not halfway. Why? Because halfway gets him out. The words hit hard, cold, true. Above us, Adrian's voice continued. Steady, controlled, building the record. Lucas grabbed my arm. Listen to me, he said. If you walk out now, you lose. And if I stay? He met my eyes. For the first time, there was no calculation, no hesitation, just truth. Then he finishes it. A beat. Then, and we end him with it. Silence. Heavy. Final. I looked at the monitor, at Adrian, at the man who had been planning this long before I understood any of it, then back at Lucas. You're not doing this for me, I said. No. Then why? A pause. Then, because I was her. My breath caught. What? Before you, he said quietly. Not the same way, but close enough. The room tilted, everything shifted. You survived, I whispered. He shook his head. No, a beat. I disappeared. Above us, Adrian's voice sharpened slightly. Adjusting, adapting, time was running. I looked back at the panel, at the system, at the plan closing in around me. Then I understood. Not just what he wanted, but how far he was willing to go to get it. I took a slow breath. Steady, controlled. No panic, not this time. Okay, I said quietly. Lucas nodded once, and together, we waited for him to finish. I slowed my breathing. In, out, even, controlled. Above us, Adrian kept talking, documenting, building the version of my death that would survive longer than I would. Subject shows signs of disorientation, delayed response. Each word landed like a nail. Precise. Permanent. I looked at Lucas. This is it, I whispered. He nodded once. No more waiting. I moved to the panel again. Not override, not fight. Lucas was right. We didn't stop him. We let him finish. My fingers hovered, then pressed a different sequence. Not his system. My mother's. A hidden relay. The monitor flickered, then a second feed opened. Not the cellar. The main house. Front entrance. Driveway. My breath caught. Black SUVs. No headlights. Silent. Lucas exhaled. They're here. Above us, Adrian's voice shifted. Just slightly. He heard it. Not the cars. Something else. A frequency. A change in the system. He turned. On the monitor, I watched him move faster now. Less controlled. Still calm. But thinner. System anomaly detected, he said quietly. For the first time, it wasn't for the record. It was real. Lucas grabbed my arm. Now. I didn't hesitate. We moved. Out of the hidden room, back into the cellar. The air hit me instantly. Heavy. Wrong. My lungs tightened. This was what it felt like. This was how they died. I forced myself forward. One step, then another. Adrian turned. Our eyes met. For a second, nothing existed but that. Not the system, not the plan. Just him and me, alive, where I wasn't supposed to be. You shouldn't be standing, he said. Not surprised, not shocked, just disappointed. I'm not following your script anymore, I said. A beat. Then, he smiled. That same cold one. You already did, he said. My chest tightened. Behind me, Lucas shifted. Adrian's eyes flicked to him. Just once. Recognition. No anger. No betrayal. Just confirmation. I wondered when you'd break, Adrian said. Lucas didn't respond. Didn't need to. A sharp sound cut through the air. Not from the house. From outside. Doors. Voices. Adrian heard it. Of course he did. His head tilted slightly, listening, calculating. Then, he laughed, soft, almost amused. You think this changes anything? He said. It already did, I replied. Another step forward, closer now. The air burned in my lungs, but I didn't stop. You documented everything, I said. You built your perfect version. Yes, so did I. That made him pause. Just for a second. Enough. The door slammed open. Light flooded the cellar. Voices. FBI, don't move! Adrian didn't move. Didn't turn. Didn't react. He just kept looking at me. And in that moment, I saw it. Not fear, not panic. Acceptance. Like this was always a possible ending. Just not the one he preferred. You were never the first, he said quietly. I know. You won't be the last. I held his gaze. No, I said, but you are. A beat. Then, agents rushed in. Weapons drawn, commands sharp, controlled, real. Lucas stepped back, hands raised. I stayed where I was, eyes locked on Adrian, even as they grabbed him, even as they forced his hands behind his back, even as the system in the house began to shut down, piece by piece, like something dying. He didn't resist. That was the last thing I expected. No struggle, no denial, just one last look. At me. You did something none of them could, he said. I didn't answer. You stayed consistent. A small pause. Then, that's why you survived. They pulled him away. Out of the cellar, out of the house, out of my life. The silence that followed was different. Not engineered, not controlled, real. For the first time since I came back, I could breathe. Weeks later, the house felt smaller, less like a cage, more like something I could leave. Lucas stood near the window, hands in his pockets, not saying much. He didn't need to. Are you staying? I asked. He shook his head. No. A pause. Then, neither should you. I nodded. I know. They found everything. The records, the identities, the other victims. Julia was moved, out of the facility, back into the world slowly, carefully, like someone learning how to exist again. As for Adrian, he talked. Not everything, but enough. Enough to make sure he would never walk out again. I stood one last time in the living room, the ocean stretched out in front of me, clear, endless, not suffocating anymore, just open. I took a breath, full, deep, mine, and for the first time, there was nothing adjusting it, nothing controlling it, nothing rewriting it. I turned, walked toward the door, and didn't look back. Some people don't come into your life to love you. They come to study you, to learn how you think, how you trust, how you break, and then they use it. Not to destroy you, but to replace you. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. The most dangerous people don't need to kill you. They just need the world to stop believing you ever existed. And once that happens, you disappear while still breathing. So if something ever feels wrong, if your reality starts shifting in ways you can't explain, don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. And don't let anyone convince you that your mind is the problem. Because sometimes, the truth isn't that you're losing control, it's that someone else has already taken it.